Hi guys, coming up today, WWE has 3 huge matches planned for WrestleMania 37.
We'll tell you which WWE superstar has been teasing winning the Royal Rumble in 2021.
AEW Dynamite has a massive victory in the Wednesday Night War ratings.
And Tom Tiny Lister has sadly passed away. I'm Adam Nicholas.
I'm Adam Wilborn, and this is the news. And let's start with those 3 huge matches reportedly planned for WrestleMania 37. You may have seen this doing the rounds late last night on Twitter, courtesy of WrestleVotes. Not necessarily official, not locked in, not concrete, but definitely seems to be the direction that WWE are heading in for 3 massive potential matches. Those being, as we sort of mentioned yesterday, WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns versus Hall of Famer Goldberg, Randy Orton versus Edge, and in a triple threat featuring the WWE Championship, or at least the WWE Champion for now, Drew McIntyre versus Keith Lee versus Brock Lesnar. I've got mixed emotions about this, Nicholas. What do you reckon?
Well, let's start at the end, because that is a red-hot match. That is something
Jesus!
I very much want to see. That's a triple threat for the ages if that does indeed go down. Probably might just be better than Brock Braun versus Kane, or whatever you want to call it. The triple threat of the Royal Rumble last, whatever it was, 2 years ago. So it might just be able to top that. But the other two, I think you're right. I think there's Roman Reigns Goldberg, I'm not really bothered about, unfortunately. I don't think that's as big a match as WWE think it is, although I'm sure it will get the casuals back. And the other one was Randy Orton Edge, which I'm always going to be a fan of, because I'm a big fan of Edge, but I imagine a lot of people aren't necessarily so keen on that one.
Yeah, I think you probably have to kind of step that match up a little bit, and obviously we're all keeping our fingers crossed that Edge can recover in time for WrestleMania. I do like the idea of a rubber match. Like last year's WrestleMania match wasn't the best, but I did enjoy their greatest wrestling match ever. The thing that puts me off the most, like you say, Keith Lee, Brock, and Drew, absolutely, go for it if you want to do that. And at the rate of that, I'd have that main event personally. But it's WWE and it's Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, so that would probably main event for them. In a weird way, the only way I'd be okay with Roman and Goldberg, and we sort of talked about this yesterday, me and Andy, is if Roman destroyed Goldberg, but you can't really have that happen at WrestleMania. You couldn't really have like a 2-minute match. I suppose you could have a sort of SummerSlam-esque just mauling by Roman Reigns, but I feel like at WrestleMania, we want the match that we've been hoping for since Big E talked about big men slapping meat, and that is Roman Reigns versus the babyface hero Big E. And the way to get to that, surely, especially with stories like this doing the rounds, is have Big E and Goldberg be the last 2 men in the Royal Rumble and have them do the slapping meat spots, your 5-star classic, none of this work rate nonsense, and have Big E go over, no?
You're a dreamer, I'll give you that.
No, I am
you
a dreamer.
are a dreamer. I would rather see Big E versus Goldberg one-on-one at Fastlane or Roadblock or whatever it'll be, speed bump. Unfortunately though, if that happens, Brock Lesnar, Goldberg's going over, baby, so that's maybe something we want to keep away from Big E, given the trajectory that he's on. I think you're right, the only way I want to see Roman versus Goldberg is if it's Roman doing to Goldberg what Brock did to Goldberg at Mania that year, I guess. That kind of match, an explosive, quick match. But even then, it just doesn't do much for me personally. But hey, some people are into it, and I'm sure they'll enjoy it if it does indeed go ahead.
Yeah, not for me. Not for me.
Fair enough. What might be for you though, and it's definitely for me, is a WWE superstar who's been teasing winning the Royal Rumble. Now, this is according to Sports Illustrated from an interview they did with Bianca Belair, who has been basically talking up her 2021. She's in the mood, you know what she's like. She's a fierce athlete, a fierce competitor, has been talking about what she wants to achieve in 2021 with them. She says in this interview, "I'm really excited for 2021, and I'm calling it right now. It's going to be a special year for Bianca Belair to stand out and shine, starting with the Royal Rumble." Remember when Drew McIntyre said this, remember that? Just keep that in your mind. She also said about the previous year's Royal Rumble, she didn't know she was going to be a part of it until the night before, and she said she was still able to go out there and last over 30 minutes. She also noted as well that she was actually only thought she was there for the previous night, where she was in the audience for the Worlds Collide match between Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm, because she was going to be facing the winner. She put in such a good performance at that last Royal Rumble, she didn't even know she was going to be in it. Imagine what you could do in the one where she does Adam Wilborn. This, for me, is a great shout. And I tell you what, I mean, I know people might think it's jumping the shark. I wouldn't be afraid of her winning that at all.
No, I can't believe we were talking about this yesterday about potential Royal Rumble winners, and we forgot to mention Bianca Belair. We were talking about Shayna Baszler and Rhea Ripley. But yeah, Bianca Belair's right there. I mean, it's madness that they were thinking about just hoying Bianca Belair in for that WrestleMania match featuring Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, just so she could take the fall. She is so talented. She is someone who is, without doubt, going to be a world champion for numerous times in WWE if they book her correctly. And yeah, a standout performance at last year's Royal Rumble from out of nowhere, as you alluded to there, and definitely someone who I would love to see as a Royal Rumble. We're kind of spoilt for choice in terms of women winning the Royal Rumble this year. Like Rhea Ripley would be good. You could have that whole redemption story. Shayna Baszler needs something like that to rehabilitate her as a singles wrestler back into the main event. And yeah, Bianca Belair, I'd be fine with it. Which is why Charlotte Flair's probably going to win next year's Royal Rumble, knowing our bloody luck. But yeah, absolutely, I'd be here for that. And let us know your thoughts in the comments about Bianca Belair potentially winning the Royal Rumble. We'll move on and talk about the ratings. It's something we talk about on quite a regular basis, but this one really is kind of groundbreaking because huge news coming out last night. Obviously saw Brian Alvarez and then just everyone sharing this. Dynamite hitting 995,000 viewers for AEW. NXT hitting 659,000. That, to get into the details, is the biggest margin of victory for Dynamite over NXT since March 18th. AEW ranked number 2 in the cable top 150 with a 0.45 in the 18 to 49 demo. NXT number 37, 0.17. This, Adam Nicholas, is AEW's biggest viewership unopposed since October of last year, when they drew just over 1 million viewers. They've done better this year, but that's only when NXT didn't run opposite them. This is the 3rd best rating in the demo in the show's history. I suppose putting Sting and Shaq and their new world champion on the show looks like it did the job.
Absolutely, and I don't think anybody is going to be surprised by this. Obviously, AEW Winter is coming the week before. Did everything right. Absolutely everything right. A perfect show, top to bottom, that you can't tell me you weren't wanting to see what was going to happen on AEW this week. And on top of that, of course, that's not even factoring in all of the views they will have given to Impact Wrestling this week as well, courtesy of Kenny Omega's appearance. This is just a perfect example of really good booking paying off and people being patient and using the right reveals and the right moments at the right times to build suspense for the next show. Now, I know there's been a few comments about this week's AEW saying maybe it didn't deliver as highly as what they were expecting. But I mean, come on, what do you expect? Winter's coming with such a big show. Yes, you might want the momentum to continue, but I think the number speaks for itself. And they're doing some fantastic stuff at AEW right now. The numbers don't lie, Adam Wilborn.
Yeah, they're trending in the right direction, and I get the argument from die-hard WWE fans that just basically say, well, they threw everything at us. Of course they're going to pop a huge rating. They can't do stuff like that every week, which is kind of fair enough. And, you know, Shaq's appearance was more intrigue, and I sense if they teased him again, you'd be like, oh, great, I'll watch him get water chucked over him or whatever. But having Sting on the show undoubtedly attracted new viewers, and just the intrigue, as much as people were saying, oh, they might crack a million with a World Championship match, the intrigue of, like, the fallout of this new World Champion who's just a knobhead, in character, of course, big fan of Kenny Omega, but yeah, the intrigue of all that, I always thought it was going to do well this week, but nowhere near that. Nearly hitting 1 million. Very intriguing to see what happens next week with that. And just, yeah, like, you know, considering where they were this time last year in terms of NXT kind of dominating the Wednesday Night Wars, even if, you know, you want to talk about 18 to 49 demos and blah, blah, all that bollocks, I don't really get into all that, but it's a hell of an achievement and an exciting time. Regardless if you're a huge AEW fan or not, it's an exciting time for wrestling fans that this alternative promotion is growing.
Absolutely. You just want to see those numbers going up for both shows, that's it. And AEW are getting closer to 1 million each time, which is really where you want to be going. And then we can start having a conversation where they might be drawing more than Monday Night Raw. And that's when things will get very interesting indeed.
Exactly, and very quickly, NXT is doing the right thing by not like counter-programming and putting 8 title matches on every week and going back to what they used to. They've started producing a far better show. In the last month or so, I've really enjoyed watching NXT because they're not taking themselves too seriously and they're not trying so bloody hard.
It'd be interesting to see how long it lasts. They aren't being slaves to the ratings anymore, which is nice to see. As you say, the product has got better. But
news just in: CM Punk's on NXT next week. Good. There we go.
Very good. Very good. Right, let's move on to some less entertaining news and more unfortunate news. Tom Tiny Lister, as we noted at the start of this video, has passed away at the age of 62. Now known by most people in WWE as Zeus, of course, a famous rivalry with Hulk Hogan back in the day. Huge, but not just in a WWE ring, of course. That also translated onto the big screen in Hollywood in the film No Holds Barred, which a classic, let's be honest, with him and Hulk Hogan in 1989. And I think most people would also remember him for the huge moment he had against Hulk Hogan in that Survivor Series match. He was part of Ted DiBiase's team, and a great career there. But that Hollywood career of his did continue as well. You'll know him from films like The Fifth Element, and you'll also know him from The Dark Knight, perhaps more recently. I always remember him as being able to do that really mad, weird thing with his eye, basically going. Yeah. It was, but what a great, memorable way to kind of announce yourself. But yes, sadly, unfortunately, he was found dead. He was found unconscious on Thursday in his Los Angeles apartment. It was declared dead at the scene, and officials have yet to determine his cause of death. But obviously, that's very sad news that we don't ever like having to report these at WhatCulture. But our thoughts obviously go out to listeners, family, and friends at a time which I can imagine has been quite difficult. Adam Wilborn.
Yeah, exactly. Awful news to hear this morning, and a legend when it comes to these interactions with Hulk Hogan. And whether you're a fan of that whole no holds barred stuff crossing over with wrestling or not, you can't argue that it garnered a great deal of attention, and he's someone who'll be sadly missed.
Absolutely. And just quickly, we do also have breaking news I've got from you, apparently coming across my screen rather than in my ears. Another story just to quickly tag on the end here. Slightly lighter hearted one, this one, but I guess not if you're WWE. Snoop Dogg, of all people, we're going to move on to. He apparently has got some heat with the people backstage in WWE. Perhaps not the story you were expecting, but according to Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer, now obviously if you were paying attention on AEW, will realise that Snoop Dogg is going to be making an appearance next year on the January 6th episode of Dynamite. He is promoting his new show, The Go Big Show, which is not that big show. This is completely unrelated. This is a talent competition, but the big connecting factor here is that Snoop Dogg and Cody are both going to be the judges on that show. Now, apparently, according to Alvarez, there are, and I quote, people within WWE who are very upset over Snoop Dogg appearing on AEW TV. Now, this sounds exactly as I would imagine it would by WWE. That's very much their MO. But Snoop Dogg, he's going to do what Snoop Dogg is going to do. Yeah. Are AEW and WWE going to be annoyed that he was doing the boxing the other week? I don't think so. The guy does what he wants. It's Snoop Dogg, Adam Wilborn. And apparently, is becoming quite the commentary and sort of personality on things, which I find fascinating at this year, 2020.
Yeah, I mean, you can't stop someone from working for one of the wrestling promotions just because they're in your Hall of Fame. I get being a little bit annoyed by it all, but like you say, we've watched him in the past. I remember him doing some commentary on the UFC Contender Series, wasn't it? And getting some attention for that. You mentioned the boxing there, and now, popping up on AEW. But he's only going to be there to shill the Go Big show. Yeah. Chill out. Calm down. Although, it does allow me to do the line, did somebody say just heat? So, there we go. I'm happy with myself. That cheered me up on Friday.
So you should be. Look, just because he's got ties with Sasha Banks and they've got the theme song together and all that stuff doesn't mean anything. Let the man go and drop it like it's hot in another promotion somewhere.
Nice.
And we'll all have a bloody good time while it's happening.
Absolutely. Carmella's winning the title at TLC now, by the way. Okay, let's move on to your Twitter questions. At WhatCulture WWE, Santosaurus Jr. starts off saying, what's your most recent unpopular wrestling opinion? Mine is that swapping the tag belts at the draft was fine. What do you reckon, Nicholas?
Oh, don't tell that to Michael Hamflett or Michael Sid or anybody really, I guess, from the old guard. They will not be happy about that. For what it's worth, I wasn't that arsed about it. I can understand why they did that, even though it does totally spit in the face of history of belts and everything like that. Mine is an unpopular one, and it's not on purpose. It's not like out of spite. I have tried to figure it out, and I can't understand it. Rhea Ripley, I think she's a great performer in the ring. I think she's obviously got and captured the minds and hearts of a bunch of people. I'm just not one of them. I can't get into her. I find it really difficult. She had that amazing period over the Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, all that kind of stuff, where she was exceptional. War Games last year. and I just feel like they killed a lot of her momentum with the Charlotte Flair stuff. And I wasn't really into her in the build-up to the Survivor Series stuff. She won me over there for a bit, and then I just feel like it petered out. I don't get it so much. I would love for someone to explain it to us as much. I'd like to be able to get it, but it doesn't click for whatever reason. I was always more interested in like Bianca Belair or Io Shirai at the time. I don't know. That's my hot take. I look forward to the Pelters because I know she's very, very popular.
I think there's an element of that that's fair enough. I think it's okay to get disillusioned with her because I thought they booked her horribly, like you said, particularly losing to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, which is just a baffling decision alongside Shayna Baszler losing, for example, and they kind of not really know. And then she had the pin when Io Shirai won the title, so it's just okay. But I get that, and I have my own with that, slightly different, but I just don't get Dexter Lumis whatsoever. My most recent unpopular wrestling opinion, probably that we need to bring authority figures back.
Oh, God almighty.
I'll protect you from pelters, don't you worry. It's going to be all me today because...
If you listen, you just hear the keyboards going wild in the comments there.
Yeah, because it's only as a way to give Bianca Belair? Billy Bloody Kay more screen time on SmackDown. Get us her assistant GM. We've got bloody Postman Pierce already. Just make it official. Because that's what we need in 2020. Or particularly as everyone's looking and feeling hopeful as we head towards 2021. Authority figures back. GMs, ladies and gentlemen. Right, let's rattle through some more final couple of questions here. Mark Solid says, Morning Legends, thoughts on having an NXT Women's Elimination Chamber match with all the talent they have in that division?
Yes, definitely yes. I mean, maybe not exactly the Elimination Chamber, something like that ilk. I would be up for that, definitely. They're too talented. You could put them in any kind of match and they would completely burn the house down in the best possible way.
Yeah, you look at the people who are involved in War Games and you can just see what talent they've got there. Raquel Gonzalez is the next challenger for Io Shirai, so exciting. But we've got Rhea Ripley when Candice LeRae recovers. We've got her. Dakota Kai, I think, has been really underrated and maybe deserves a world championship
MVP
reign.
at War Games for me, Dakota Kai.
Yeah. And there's just so many people coming through. The NXT Women's Division is just absolutely stacked. And also nice to see Dakota Kai coming out on social media yesterday and defending anyone shooting after AEW's Women's Division because,
damn right.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's hopefully improving. Final question today comes from Jake. It's a little teaser. This less of a question, more of something to leave on your mind for the rest of the day. Jake says, if you close your eyes and listen to them both talk, do you think that Kenny Omega's voice sounds similar to The Miz? Maybe it's just me, but something about the timbre of each of their voices sounds so alike. When he said that, I thought, he might have a point there, Nicholas.
I'd have to listen to them now. Obviously, I haven't done it, but I would have to listen to them. From my memory, I can kind of maybe understand where he's coming from, but then also, just with Kenny being from Winnipeg, and The Miz being from, where is he? Ohio? Is The Miz? Somewhere like that? I don't know. I'm just, someone's going to have pelters in there. Tell me. Cleveland, I'm sure he is. I don't know. Maybe. I'll have to listen to them.
If you're struggling to differentiate between the two, just remember, one is the greatest wrestler in the world, and the other one's Kenny Omega.
Hey.
Let's move on to today's, and finally, and a shout out to Hikaru Shida, who responded to someone questioning basically her facing the terrifying Abaddon for the AEW Women's Championship. Someone said, "You beat her already, don't you remember? I love AEW, but I have to be honest, this makes no sense." Hikaru Shida responded, "Okay, if you were attacked by a crocodile and survived, would you want to fight it again?" Which is, I suppose, a fair assessment to having to fight whatever Abaddon is.
I mean, I would watch Hikaru Shida fight a crocodile or an alligator instead, because I do think she'd win, even if she wouldn't enjoy it. But yeah, I totally get this point. You can't. That's just completely taken away from almost every huge rivalry in the world ever.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Well, you won once, just over. Yeah. No, it's not. That's the whole point. But anyway, let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts, previewing SmackDown later, and a hashtag bloody good quiz on Wrestle Culture, of course. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there, follow both of us. You can follow Adam Nicholas at...
It's Adam Nicholas. Follow Adam Wilborn at
Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at What Culture WWE. But for now, my thanks to Adam Nicholas. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.